The silence in the townhouse felt heavier than usual. Liam was in Austin for another last-minute partner summit, and the emptiness of the four-story Upper East Side brownstone echoed. I, Serafina Kingsley, was used to the solitude of his frequent absences. It was the price of being married to a man whose ambition was as meticulously curated as his wardrobe. I found my peace in the quiet order of my life. My work with the Kingsley Arts Education Foundation, the board meetings, the gallery openings, and my wine collection. The cellar was my sanctuary, a climate-controlled love letter to Napa and Bordeaux, a hobby that had started with my father and evolved into a serious, deeply personal passion. It held memories, not just bottles, which was why, that Tuesday evening, the violation felt so intimate, so visceral. I'd gone down to select a bottle for a quiet dinner. The motion sensor lights flickered on, illuminating the racks of Burgundies, the wall of California cult Cabernets. My eyes went automatically to the top right section, the locked case, the crown jewels, the 1990 Domaine de la Romanée-Conti, and the 2005 Screaming Eagle Cabernet Sauvignon. They were more than wine, they were milestones. The DRC was the last bottle my father and I had bought together before he passed. The Screaming Eagle was a gift to myself when the foundation secured its permanent endowment. I saw the empty space where they should have been. My heart did a slow, hard thud against my ribs. I blinked, thinking my eyes were tricking me in the low light. I stepped closer. The lock was intact, sophisticated, untouched, but the two bottles behind the glass were gone. A faint, clean rectangle in the thin layer of dust on the shelf marked where they had stood. Panic, cold and sharp, shot through me. Not about the money, though the combined value was obscene. It was the violation, the theft of my history. I ran upstairs, my heels clicking a frantic rhythm on the limestone floors, and went straight to the security panel in the kitchen. The alarm logs showed no breaches. The system was armed every night, disarmed by me every morning. The only other person with the code, besides Liam, was Maria. Maria Rodriguez had been with us for 8 years. She was family in every way that mattered. She'd held my hand through a miscarriage Liam had been too busy to come home for. She'd learned to make my mother's tortilla española. We'd cried together watching sappy movies. The thought was a physical nausea. No, not her, but logic was a cold, insistent voice. She was the only one here. I walked, my steps now leaden, to the small security nook off the pantry where the monitor for the cellar camera displayed a live feed. My fingers were clumsy on the trackpad as I pulled up the archived footage from the last 48 hours. I fast-forwarded through empty frames, the time code blurring. Then, there she was, yesterday, 2:17 p.m. Liam was gone. I was at a foundation luncheon. Maria entered the cellar, her posture not furtive, but purposeful. She carried a large tote bag. She went straight to the locked case. From her pocket, she produced a key. A key? How? I watched, breath held, as she unlocked the cased Y case with the same gentle efficiency she used to unlock the front door. She took the two bottles, wrapped them carefully in what looked like tea towels, and placed them in her bag. She relocked the case, checked the angle of the bottles, left behind to disguise the gap, and left. The whole thing took less than 90 seconds. I sank into the chair, the leather creaking in the silent house. The betrayal was a hollowing ache. 8 years. I'd given her bonuses, paid for her daughter's community college classes, given her months of paid leave when her sister was sick. And for what? For her to steal the two most meaningful, most valuable things I owned? Anger began to replace the hurt, burning it away. It was a clean, sharp anger. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over her contact. I didn't call. I texted. Short, unforgiving. Serafina, Maria, I need you to come to the house. Now. It's urgent. Her reply came a minute later. Maria, on my way. Mrs. Kingsley, 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes were an eternity. I paced, the image of her calm, theft playing on a loop behind my eyes. I rehearsed what I would say, how I would keep my voice steady. The police. I should call the police. But the thought of Maria in handcuffs, her daughter, the weight of our history, stayed my hand. I would confront her. I would get my property back. And I would end this. No police. It was more mercy than she deserved. The front door lock chimed. Her familiar. Light steps in the foyer. Mrs. Kingsley? I'm here. I was in the living room, standing by the fireplace. I hadn't turned on the main lights. Just a single lamp. She came in, still in her coat, her expression one of mild concern. Is everything okay? You sounded. Where are they? Maria? My voice was flat, a sheet of ice. Her face changed. The pleasant, concerned mask dissolved into something else. Not guilt, not fear. It was a weary resignation. Where are what? Mrs. Kingsley? Don't. I snapped. The control breaking. Don't insult us both. The cellar camera. 2:13 yesterday afternoon. The Romani Conti. The Screaming Eagle. You had a key. You put them in your bag. Where are my bottles? She didn't flinch. She just looked at me. Her dark eyes unreadable. The silence stretched. Finally, she let out a long, slow breath. I have them. They're safe. Safe? A bitter laugh escaped me. You stole them. After 8 years. Maria, you stole from me. From us. My God. If you needed money, you could have just asked. It wasn't for money, she said, her voice low and firm, a tone I'd never heard her use with me. Then for what? A thrill? To sell them on some black market? Do you have any idea what those wines mean to me? I have a very good idea, she said. Her gaze was intense, pinning me. That's why I took them. That makes no sense. I was shouting now, the anger and hurt boiling over. You're fired. Maria, pack your things from the guest house and leave. Now, bring me my wine, and I won't call the police. Consider that they only thank you for 8 years of what I thought was loyalty. She nodded slowly, as if she'd expected this. She didn't beg, didn't explain. She just turned to go. At the archway to the foyer, she stopped. She didn't look back at me, but her head tilted slightly towards the formal dining room, visible across the hall. You should look at the other one. You know. The other what? The other camera. Her eyes finally met mine over her shoulder. They were full of a profound, sorrowful urgency. The one your husband had installed in the smoke detector across from the wine cabinet. The one that points at the cabinet, not the room. Sometimes, protecting someone means doing something that looks wrong. Remember that. And then she was gone. The front door closed with a soft, definitive click. I stood frozen. The one your husband had installed, Liam. The smoke detector. He'd insisted on upgrading all the detectors 6 months ago, saying the old ones were a liability. He'd overseen the installation himself. My legs moved before my mind could process. I walked into the dining room. The wine cabinet was a beautiful, lit walnut piece against the far wall. Above it, on the ornate ceiling molding, was a streamlined, white smoke detector. I dragged the heavy mahogany dining chair over, climbed up, and peered at it. It looked normal. I twisted it. It came off its base easily. And there it was. Not just a smoke detector. A small, sleek black lens embedded in the center. A tiny memory card slot on the side. A camera. A very expensive, very discreet camera. My hands were trembling as I pulled the device free. I found the almost invisible micro USB port and connected it to my laptop with a cable from a drawer. A drive popped up on the screen. It contained a series of video files, dated and time-stamped. I clicked the most recent one, from 3 nights ago. The timestamp read 2:04 a.m. The camera's field of view was perfect. A clear shot of the locked section of the wine cabinet. The cellar door opened. A figure entered. Liam. He was still in his dinner jacket, his tie loosened. He looked alert, not sleepy. He went straight to the cabinet, used his key, of course he had a key, and opened it. From his jacket pocket, he pulled out a small, professional-looking case. He unzipped it. Inside were 2 syringes, their needles fine and long, and 2 small vials of clear liquid. A cold, deeper than any cellar chill, seeped into my bones. I watched, hand clamped over my mouth, as he expertly, delicately, uncorked the 1990 DRC. He inserted the needle through the foil and into the cork, injecting the contents of the first vial. He did the same with the Screaming Eagle. He recorked them with meticulous care, using a tool to reseat the corks perfectly. He wiped the necks, checked the levels against the light, and placed them back exactly as they were. He surveyed his work, nodded in satisfaction, locked the case, and left. The video ended. I was numb. I couldn't breathe. I clicked the next file. It was from the same night, just minutes later, but the angle was from a different camera. This one looked like it was from the security camera in the hallway outside his study. Liam was on his phone, his voice a low murmur the camera barely picked up. I cranked the volume. Done. It's in both. The dosage is precise, fast-acting, but the effects will look historical, like a long-term problem finally boiling over. A pause. He listened, then a slow, cruel smile spread across his face, a smile I'd never seen. Yes, and sure, she'll be the one to open them at the gala. She'll want to show off. The public collapse will be spectacular. The medical report will show chronic alcohol abuse and benzodiazepine dependency. The foundation board will have no choice but to vote her into a mandatory leave of absence. And I, as the dutiful, concerned husband and co-trustee, he listened again, nodding. Of course, I'll naturally assume stewardship of her shares and board position. Once she's properly committed for treatment, the divorce will be straightforward. Incompetence, addiction, we'll have it all. Just make sure your doctor is ready with the statement. He laughed then, a soft, ugly sound. The beauty is, she'll never even know what hit her. She'll just wake up with her life in ruins and everyone thinking she's a fragile, secret drunk. And I'll be the hero who tried to save her. See you tomorrow. Isabella, we're almost there. The call ended. The screen went dark. On my laptop, the video file player showed a black rectangle. Isabella Vance, my supposed friend, a rival fundraiser on the charity circuit. Sharp, ambitious, perpetually single. And my husband. The world didn't spin. It shattered. It disintegrated into a million sharp, glittering shards, each one a memory, a touch, a promise, now revealed as a lie. The partnership summits, the late nights, the patronizing concern about my stress levels, the encouragement to serve the good stuff at the upcoming foundation gala. Show them the Romani Connie. Sarah, you deserve to celebrate. He wasn't trying to celebrate me. He was trying to erase me. My hands, now steady with a terrifying calm, found my phone. I didn't call Liam. I didn't call my lawyer. Not yet. I called 911. When the operator answered, my voice was clear, detached. The voice of Serafina Kingsley, chairwoman of the board, a woman used to giving orders. Yes, I need to report an attempted poisoning and a conspiracy to commit fraud. My name is Serafina Kingsley. My address is 172 East 71st Street. Please send officers and alert the DA's office. I have video evidence. As I gave the details, my eyes fell on the blank screen, then lifted to the empty space in the wine cabinet across the room. Maria hadn't stolen my wine. She had taken the poison. She had left the camera. She had tried, in her impossible way, to protect me, and I had fired her, the last of my old life. The life of trust and assumed loyalty crumbled away as I heard the first siren's wail in the distance, getting louder. coming for what was left of the man I thought I'd married. The next 72 hours were a blur of stark, procedural realities. The sirens had given way to the harsh, static-filled chatter of police radios in my foyer. 2 uniformed officers first, then detectives, then a forensics team in disposable white suits that looked absurd against the Aubusson rug. I sat in the living room, numb, giving my statement to a detective with a kind face and tired eyes named Alvarez. The suspect is my husband, Liam Kingsley. I heard myself say, my voice sounding distant. He's currently at the Four Seasons in Austin, Texas. The evidence is on that device and on my home server where the feed backs up. Detective Alvarez's eyebrows rose slightly as he reviewed the video on a tablet. His partner, a younger man named Russo, let out a low whistle. He's injecting something. All right, you have any idea what it was? Mrs. Kingsley? No, but you have the bottles. Or Maria Rodriguez does. My former house manager. She took them to prevent me from drinking them. Saying it out loud made it both more real and more surreal. We'll need to speak with her and retrieve that evidence immediately. Alvarez said, you said you fired her. Where would she be? I gave him Maria's address in Queens and her cell number. My mind was racing ahead of the conversation. Liam, what would he do when the Austin PD knocked on his hotel door? Would he be with her? Isabella. The name was a shard of glass in my chest. My phone buzzed on the table between us. Liam calling. The detectives saw the screen. Alvarez nodded at me. Answer it. Keep it normal. Don't tip him off. I took a steadying breath and swiped to answer, putting it on speaker. Liam. Hey, you. His voice was all relaxed. Post-meeting charm. I could picture him in a hotel robe, a minibar scotch in his hand. The image now made my skin crawl. Just finished up. Brutal day. These Texas guys are animals. What's going on there? I got a notification the alarm was disarmed by police code. Of course you did. The app on his phone. I forced lightness into my tone. Oh, it was nothing. A false alarm. The smoke detector in the dining room went haywire. The fire department came. Reset the system. All good. The lie came smoothly, a skill I'd learned in 100 boardroom negotiations. Which detector? His voice tightened. Just a fraction. The one over the wine cabinet. It started chirping like mad. Probably a spider's web or something. It's fine now. I let a hint of annoyance seep in. Just a hassle. A pause. I could almost hear him thinking. Recalibrating. Did you have to take it down? The fireman did. Checked it. Put it back. Why? I pressed, wanting to hear his justification. No reason. Just that it's a newer model. Shouldn't be failing. I'll have the company out when I'm back. His tone was back to normal, but I heard the underlying strain. Everything else okay? Everything's fine, I said, my eyes on the detectives. When's your flight back? Tomorrow evening. I'll text you the details. Love you. The words. Once routine. Now felt like a physical blow. You too. I managed and ended the call. Detective Alvarez looked at me with something akin to respect. Good. That gives us time. We'll coordinate with Austin PD. They'll pick him up for questioning based on the evidence we send. We'll also need to bring in Ms. Vance for questioning. He stood. We're going to send the bottles to the lab for immediate analysis. We'll need you to come to the precinct tomorrow to give a formal, recorded statement, and we'll need your full cooperation, which includes not contacting Mr. Kingsley or Ms. Vance. You have it, I said. The numbness was receding, replaced by a cold. Focus clarity. What about Maria? She's not in any trouble, is she? Taking evidence from a potential crime scene is problematic. Mrs. Kingsley, Russo said, but given the circumstances, we'll see what the DA says. Her cooperation will be key. After they left, the heavy silence returned. Now pregnant with threat, I couldn't stay in the house. Every room whispered of Liam's betrayal. I packed a bag, called the Carlisle and booked a suite under my maiden name, Serafina Thorne. As I was leaving, my phone rang again. Not Liam. David Chen, my personal attorney, a shark in a bespoke suit who had handled my family's affairs for a decade. I had texted him a simple, stark message an hour ago. Liam tried to poison me. I have it on video. Police are here. Need you now. I answered. David. Sarah. Jesus Christ. Are you safe? His voice was sharp. All business. No preamble. I'm safe. I'm leaving the house now. Going to the Carlisle. Good. Don't talk to anyone. I'm sending a car for you. It will take you to my offices. We need to talk before you give any formal statement. The police said, I'll deal with the police. Get in the car. It will be there in 10 minutes. He hung up. David's offices on Park Avenue were a study in understated power. By the time I arrived, he had a folder open on his immense desk. Start from the beginning. Leave nothing out. He commanded. I told him everything. The missing wine, confronting Maria, the camera, the video of Liam, the phone call with Isabella. David listened, steepling his fingers, his expression granite. When I finished, he leaned back. Okay, this is ugly, but it's also, potentially, a gift. The video is a smoking gun, attempted assault with a deadly weapon, conspiracy, fraud based on what you suspect about the foundation. We need to move fast and strategically. The police are one track. We are on another. Our job is to protect you, your assets, and the foundation. In that order. I want him destroyed. David. He will be. But we do it smart. We use the criminal case as leverage, but we build our own civil and financial case. We need to know everything. Bank records, shell companies, his communications with Vance. He pointed a finger at me. Your first priority is to act normal. Do not let him know you know. When he's arrested, you will be shocked, devastated. You will have no idea how your dear husband could be involved in such a thing. Understood? I just had a very convincing phone call with him. David, I think I can manage. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Good. Now, this Maria, she's the wild card. The police will interview her. We need to interview her first. We need to know exactly what she knows, what she heard, and what her motivations are. If she's vulnerable, Liam's attorney will try to exploit that, turn her into a scorned employee, the actual culprit. She's not, I said, with more force than I intended. She saved my life. Her actions saved your life. Her motivations are what we need to validate. Where is she? The police are probably with her now, getting the wine. Give me her address. I'll have a team meet her after the police are done. Discreetly. I shook my head. No, I'll go. Tonight. Sarah, that's not advisable. David, she worked for me for 8 years. I accused her of theft and fired her. I owe her an apology, face to face, and I need to hear it from her. All of it. He studied me, then nodded slowly. Fine, but you're not going alone. I'm sending Ben. Ben was his head of security, a former federal agent with a calm demeanor and eyes that missed nothing. And you're wearing a wire. I want everything she says on record. A few hours later, after giving my formal statement at the precinct in a daze of repeated questions and legal jargon, I sat in the back of a black SUV with Ben driving. The wire was a small, cold disc against my skin. Maria's apartment was in Astoria, a modest but clean brick building. Dusk was falling. Ben glanced at me in the rear view. I'll be in the lobby. Mrs. Kingsley, take your time. I knocked on the door of 3B. It opened a crack, then wider. Maria stood there, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater. She looked older, tired, but her eyes were clear. She wasn't surprised to see me. Mrs. Kingsley, she said softly, stepping aside to let me in. The apartment was small, warm, filled with family photos and the smell of simmering beans. A young woman, the spitting image of Maria at that age, looked up from the sofa, her eyes wide. Mama? It's okay. Elena. Go to your room. Mia, this is my former employer. Elena retreated, casting a worried glance back. Maria led me to a small kitchen table. Would you like coffee? No. Thank you. I stood, awkward. Maria, I saw the video. I called the police. Liam has been arrested in Austin. Isabella Vance is being questioned. She simply nodded, as if she'd expected this news. I am glad. And the wine? The police took it. It's with the forensic lab. They'll find what he put in it. I finally Saturday, the weight of the day, crashing down. Maria, why didn't you just tell me? She sat across from me, her hands folded on the table. A lifetime of service had trained her posture to be perfect. Even here. How could I? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. He told me he knew. Knew what? About Elena. Her eyes filled with tears that did not fall. About her papers. She came here on a tourist visa when she was 15, to be with me after her father died. It had expired. We applied for an adjustment, but it was denied. She is undocumented. The word was a sigh of pain. I have tried everything. Lawyers. Everything. It is a limbo. Mr. Kingsley. He found out. I don't know how. 3 months ago. He came to me in the garden. He said if I ever spoke a word against him, or to you, about anything, he would make a call to immigration. He said Elena would be picked up, put in a detention center, and sent back to a place she hardly remembers. He said it would be my fault. A single tear escaped, tracing a line down her cheek. What was I to do? Choose between you and my daughter? The horror of it, the cold, calculating cruelty, took my breath away. Oh, Maria. So I listened. She continued, her voice gaining strength. I became a ghost. I heard his phone calls, late at night, when he thought I was in my quarters. He thought I spoke little English. He and that woman, La Serpiente Isabella, they talked about the foundation, about money, about you. They were in love, but it was a hungry love. They wanted what you had. Then, 2 weeks ago, I heard him in his study. The door was not closed all the way. He was talking about the wine, about the gala, about a doctor who would write a report, about you having a breakdown in public. Her hands clenched. I knew I had to stop it, but I could not go to you. He would destroy Elena. So, I took the wine. It was the only thing I could think to do. If the wine was gone, you could not drink it. The plan would fail. The camera. I prompted gently. I saw him, weeks ago, adjusting the smoke detector in the dining room. It seemed strange. He is a man who calls a handyman for a light bulb. So I looked later. I saw the lens. I knew then he was watching, waiting. I did not know what for. After I heard the plan, I knew. The camera was to see you take the wine. To have proof it was you who opened the bottles. So, I redirected it. Just a little. I used a tool from the garage. Now it pointed at the cabinet, not the chair where you usually sit. I thought, if he is recording, let him record himself. She looked at me, her gaze unwavering. I took the memory card the day I took the wine. I made a copy on a small drive and put it back in the detector. I left the original for you to find. I hoped you would find it. The text message. Check the smoke detector. I was afraid you would not look, or that you would look and he would have found a way to erase it. I had to make sure. She finally looked down at her hands. I am sorry, Mrs. Kingsley, for the lie, for stealing, but I am not sorry I did it. The wave of shame that washed over me was crippling. I fired you. I accused you after everything you've done for me, after everything you risked for me. She looked up, a faint, sad smile on her lips. You gave me a job when no one else would. You paid for Elena's classes. You held me when Carlos died. You are not just my employer. You are family. Sometimes, for family, you do things that are hard, that look wrong. I reached across the table and took her work-roughened hands in mine. You are my family, Maria, and I am so sorry. Will you let me make this right? Will you help me? Help you how? The police have him. The police have him for the poison. I want everything else. I want the foundation back. I want to ruin him. And her. I need to know everything you heard. Every name. Every date. Every number. Will you come back? Not as house manager. Aslas my Olay. I will get the best immigration lawyer in the country for Elena. I will protect her with everything I have. I promise you this. She searched my face for a long moment. Then, she squeezed my hands. What do you need me to do? I leaned forward. The plan David and I had begun to formulate taking solid shape. First, I need you to talk to my lawyer. On record. Tell him everything. Then, I need you to do something very difficult. I need you to call Liam. Her eyes widened. Que, Guay. He's been arrested. He'll be out on bail by tomorrow. He'll be desperate. Confused. He'll want to know what happened. I need you to call him. Apologize. Say you took the wine because you were angry at me. That you needed money for Elena. Say you saw the police at the house and got scared. And that you'll give the wine back if he helps you. Get him to admit he knew about the poison. My lawyer's people will record everything. You want me to trap him? I want you to help me make sure he never hurts us. Or anyone. Ever again. Will you do it? Maria was silent. In the other room, we could hear the faint sound of a Spanish-language news broadcast. She was weighing the risk, the fear, against 8 years of loyalty and a newfound hope for her daughter. She looked toward the closed bedroom door where Elena was, then back at me. The fear in her eyes was slowly replaced by a hard, determined glint I had only seen when she was defending her own. See, she said, the word firm and clear. I will do it. For you. And for Elena. Thank you. I whispered, the word utterly inadequate. The foundation of my life was ashes. But in that small, warm kitchen, a new alliance was forged not of employer and employee, but of two women wronged by the same predator. The game was on, and Liam had no idea the pawn he'd threatened had just become a queen. The suite at the Carlisle was a gilded cage. For 3 days, I played my part. I moved through the motions of my life. Foundation emails, board call summaries, charity luncheon menus that with a robotic efficiency that left no room for feeling. Feeling was a luxury I couldn't afford. If I stopped, even for a second, the image of the needle piercing the cork would flash behind my eyes, and the cold, vast emptiness of Liam's betrayal would swallow me whole. So, I worked. David Chen's private investigator, a taciturn ex-federal agent named Mike Vargas, was my ghost in the machine. While I pretended, he dug, his preliminary reports, delivered in terse, bullet-point emails to a secure server, were a methodical evisceration of the life I thought I had. Subject: preliminary findings, LK financials, multiple large, irregular transfers from joint savings account, ending 4481, to an LLC registered in Delaware, Meridian Holdings. Paper trail indicates investment consulting. Meridian Holdings shows corresponding outgoing wires to an account in the Caymans under the name I. Vain, likely a typo/obfuscation for Isabella Vance. Cross-referencing with foundation ledgers. 2 vendor overpayments to a lighting contractor. Apex Illumination, totaling $285,000, were authorized via digital signature. Signature matches S, Kingsley on file, but timestamps coincide with your confirmed attendance at Metropolitan Opera Gala, November 12th, and Art Basel, Miami, December 3rd. Impossible for you to have signed. Digital forensics pending. Life insurance policy taken out 18 months ago. You are primary insured. Beneficiary, Isabella M. Vance. Face value, $15 million. Policy includes a no contest clause for accidental death. LK is listed as the policy owner. I stared at the last line until the words blurred. 15 million and a clause that meant if I died in an accident, Isabella would get the money without legal challenge. My skin felt 2 sizes too small. This wasn't just about discrediting me. This was a two-pronged strategy. Ruin me publicly and take control. Or, if that failed, remove me permanently. The wine was plan A. I didn't want to think about what plan B might have been. My phone rang. The personal line. Liam that he'd been released on a $2 million bond hours after his arrest in Austin. His lawyer, a famously vicious pit bull named Arthur Brigham, had spun a masterful tale of a terrible misunderstanding and marital discord exploited by a disgruntled employee. The judge, citing Liam's lack of prior record and community ties, set bail with the condition he surrender his passport and have no contact with me. The no-contact order was the only thing holding my performance together. I let it ring 3 times, steadying my breath. Liam? My voice was carefully brittle, a mix of confusion and hurt. The lawyer said, I'm not supposed to talk to you. The police said, Sarah, baby, listen to me. His voice was a low, urgent rush. The honeyed tone he used when he was closing a deal he knew was shady. This is a nightmare, a complete fabrication. That woman, Maria, she's setting me up. She must have planted that camera. She's been stealing from us for years. The police have the wine. Liam, they're testing it. They said there was something in it. I let a tremor enter my voice, a beat of silence. I could almost hear him recalculating. They're lying. Or she tampered with it after she stole it. To cover her tracks. Think about it. Sarah, why would I do that? I love you. We have a life. This is insane. They showed me a video. Liam, from the camera you installed. It looked like you. I injected a seed of doubt. Just enough. Deep fake, he said, the word exploding with a desperate certainty. Or a body double. This is bigger than you know. Isabella. She mentioned weeks ago that Maria had been asking around for a lot of cash. Something about her daughter. I think Isabella might be involved somehow, trying to sabotage the foundation, drive a wedge between us. Maybe they're working together. The audacity of it took my breath away. He was already laying the groundwork to pivot, to paint Isabella as a co-conspirator with Maria, or even the mastermind. He was cutting her loose. My stomach churned. I don't know what to believe anymore. I whispered, laying the groundwork for my own next move. Everything is a mess. The foundation, the board is calling. Reporters are at the gates. I'm at the Carlisle. I can't be in that house. Good. That's good. Stay there. Safe. Relief bled into his tone. He thought I was buying it. Let me handle this. My lawyer is the best. This will all get sorted. Just trust me. Sarah, please, don't talk to the press. Don't say anything to anyone. This is a legal war now, and we need to present a united front. The word was a poison dart. I just need time to think. Liam, of course. Baby, of course. I'll fix this. I love you. I hung up without saying it back, pressing the phone to my chest as if I could slow my racing heart. The performance was exhausting. A minute later, my secure line buzzed. David. He took the bait. I said flatly, Good. Vargas has more. Can you come down and bring your newfound ally? It's time we all got on the same page. An hour later, Maria and I sat in David Stark, modern conference room. Mike Vargas, a compact man with a military bearing and eyes that missed nothing, stood before a large monitor. Maria looked nervous but resolute, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I had kept my promise. Elena was currently in a meeting with the finest immigration attorney in New York, a friend of David's. On my dime. Okay. Vargas began, his voice devoid of inflection. We've accelerated the forensic accounting. The apex illumination, overpayments were just the start. He clicked a remote. The screen filled with bank statements, wire transfer records, and incorporation documents. The money trail leads from the foundation to shell companies and ultimately to accounts controlled by Liam Kingsley and Isabella Vance. Total misappropriation over the last 18 months. just under $2 million. I felt the blood drain from my face. 2 million? It was incremental, creative invoicing, fictitious consultants, inflated expenses for the annual gala. It's textbook. He changed the slide. It showed a series of photographed documents, loan agreements. He also took out 3 personal lines of credit against your shared assets, using forged signatures. Total liability, another 1.5 million. The loans were taken out days after the life insurance policy was initiated. Collateral, David said quietly from the head of the table. He was leveraging your death. Sera, before it even happened. The insurance payout would cover the loans and leave a tidy profit. The room swam for a second. Maria reached over and put her steadying hand on my arm. Desgraciado. She muttered. Bastard. There's more. Vargas continued, his expression grim. The digital signature on the foundation transfers. Our tech guy confirmed it. It's a sophisticated forgery, but a forgery. It was created using a high-resolution scan of your signature from a donated check. The file was created on Liam's personal laptop. Can you prove that? David asked. We have the metadata. We have the scan source. It's a direct link. I took a deep, shuddering breath. What about Isabella? Vargas brought up a new image. Security camera stills from a chic Soho boutique hotel. Liam and Isabella, caught in a casual, intimate embrace in the lobby. The timestamp was from 6 weeks ago. They've been using this place for afternoon meetings for about 2 years. According to the concierge we persuaded to talk. We also have credit card receipts for dinners, trips to Napa, jewelry purchases from Liam's account that match pieces Isabella has been photographed wearing. He looked at me. This wasn't just a financial play. Mrs. Kingsley, it was personal. It's always personal. I said, my voice like stone. When is his bail hearing? Tomorrow morning. David said, he'll be there with Brigham, looking contrite and wronged. The DA's case for the poisoning is strong, but it's circumstantial without a direct confession or a witness to his intent. The financial crimes are solid, but they're separate. We need to tie it all together in a way a jury can't ignore. I looked at Maria. Are you ready? She nodded, her face pale but determined. David slid a small, high-tech recording device across the table. It looked like a sleek credit card charger. The call is set for 7 p.m. tonight. He's desperate, isolated, and looking for a way to discredit you and exonerate himself. He'll want to believe you're on his side. Use that. Vargas will be monitoring from here. We'll have a clear recording. Maria picked up the device, turning it over in her hands. What do I say? Stick to the truth where you can. David advised. You took the wine. You were scared. You need his help. Express anger at Sarah for firing you. Your goal is to get him to acknowledge he knew about the poison, or to implicate Isabella. Any admission will do. At 6:55 p.m., we were in a small, soundproofed side office in David's firm. Maria sat at a desk, the recorder activated and hidden in a drawer. Vargas gave her a thumbs up from behind the one-way glass where I stood, my heart pounding. He placed the call, using a blocked number. It rang twice. Hello. Liam's voice was wary. Mr. Kingsley? It's Maria. Maria Rodriguez. Her voice was thick with a convincing tremor. A long pause. Maria, I've been trying to reach you. The police have been looking for you. I know. I am so sorry. Mr. Kingsley, I did a bad thing. I took the wine. I was angry at Mrs. Kingsley. She was complaining about the cost of my daughter's school. I needed money. I thought, those bottles, they are worth so much. She let the sentence trail into a sob. It's okay, Maria. It's okay, Liam said, his tone switching to soothing. Manipulative. I understand. She can be difficult, but you have to give the wine back. The police think I did something to it. You have to tell them you took it before anything could have happened. I have it. I have it safe. But the police, they scare me. If I give it back, they will say I am the one who did the bad thing to it. I cannot go to jail. Mr. Kingsley, my daughter, you won't go to jail. I'll protect you. I'll say it was a misunderstanding. Just, you need to tell the truth. You took the wine before the gala, right? Before anyone could have tampered with it. His voice was laced with a desperate hope. I took it the day before you came home from your last trip. Maria said, her words carefully chosen. I saw you on the camera in the dining room. A few nights before, I saw you with the needle. I was scared. I did not understand. But I thought, if I take the wine, no one gets hurt. I was trying to help. The silence on the other end was profound, electric. When Liam spoke again, the soothing pretense was gone, replaced by a cold, hard edge. What did you see, Maria? I saw you, putting something in the bottles. The red wine and the white wine. You're mistaken. The camera angle was bad. The lighting was poor. He was backtracking, but the panic was there. No, señor. It was you. I have the other copy. From the camera. The police. They only have the one. I have the original. She was improvising brilliantly, dangling the bait. You have the original memory card? His voice was a razor blade. See that I made a copy for Mrs. Kingsley. I kept the first one. For insurance. Another silence. Longer this time. We could hear his ragged breathing through the speaker. Maria, listen to me. You're in over your head. Isabella, she put you up to this, didn't she? She paid you to steal the wine, to set me up. This is her scheme. You need to tell the police that. Tell them Isabella Vance promised you money. Promised to help your daughter. If you would frame me, that's the truth, isn't it? He was doing exactly what David predicted, trying to pivot the blame onto Isabella. Maria played along, her voice shaking. She said you would understand. She said it was to protect the foundation from Mrs. Kingsley. She said the medicine in the wine was just to make her sleep, to cause a scene. Nothing bad. Yes, Vargas clenched a fist by his side. He'd admitted knowledge of the substance and its purpose, and implicated Isabella, all in one breath. It was just a sedative. Liam hissed, taking the bait completely, just to make her look unstable. Isabella said it was harmless, but you stole the wine. You ruined the plan. And now you're trying to blackmail me? Is that it? I am scared. Mr. Kingsley, I do not know what to do. Here's what you do. You give me that original memory card. You tell the police Isabella hired you. You say she gave you the substance to inject. But you got scared and just took the bottles instead. You do that, and I will make sure you and your daughter are taken care of. I will give you $50,000 cash, and I will make her troubles with immigration disappear. Do you understand? 50,000? Yes, but only if I get that card. And you tell the story I just gave you. Isabella is the villain, not me. We were both her puppets. Do we have a deal? Maria looked at the one-way mirror, her eyes wide. I nodded fiercely. See, Emery Kingsley, we have a deal. Good. Don't call this number again. I'll contact you with instructions. The line went dead. The room erupted in a collective exhale. Vargas grinned. A sharp, predatory thing. We got him. Conspiracy. Solicitation to commit subornation of perjury. Witness tampering. And an admission about the sedative. It's beautiful. Maria put her head in her hands, trembling. I rushed into the room and put my arms around her. You were incredible. Increíble. He is a devil, she whispered. He would throw that woman to the wolves without blinking. He'll throw anyone away who isn't useful to him. I said, the last of my sentiment for the man I married turning to ash. I looked at David. What's next? Next, David said, his eyes gleaming with legal fervor. We use this. We go to the 2 foundation board members you trust the most. We show them the financials. We play them this recording. We need the board on our side before the gala. Or Liam and Isabella could still try to swing a vote for emergency stewardship based on the scandal. We cut off their escape routes. I nodded, the plan solidifying into cold, hard action. The web of lies was fully visible now, every sticky strand glistening with his greed and her malice. And we were no longer flies trapped in it. We were the spiders, and it was time to start cutting him down. The Kingsley Arts Education Foundation's annual benefit gala was the social event of the season, a glittering monument to wealth pretending to have a conscience. The main ballroom of the plaza was a sea of black tie and couture, the air thick with the scent of money, gardenias, and ambition. A string quartet played something tastefully inoffensive. Waiters circulated with champagne flutes that cost more than Maria's weekly grocery bill. I stood near the entrance, a frozen smile on my face, receiving a procession of air kisses and hollow condolences. Serafina, darling, you look radiant. Such strength. Thinking of you. Sarah, such a terrible misunderstanding with Liam. The foundation is in our prayers. We know you'll steer the ship. The news of Liam's arrest for attempted assault had been a carefully managed leak. David's PR team had framed it as a complex personal matter, stressing my full cooperation with authorities and steadfast focus on the Foundation's mission. The official line was that Liam was taking time to address these allegations, and I was heartbroken but resolute. The unspoken consensus in the room was a mixture of prurient curiosity and predatory calculation. I was either a tragic victim or a soon-to-be toppled queen, and every person here was trying to figure out which. My gown was a column of liquid silver, armor disguised as dress. My jewelry was simple, heirloom diamonds that had belonged to my grandmother. I looked every inch the benevolent aristocrat. Inside, I was a live wire, humming with a cold, focused fury. David moved through the crowd like a sleek shark, shaking hands, exchanging quiet words with key board members. Mike Vargas was stationed near the service entrance, posing as security, an earpiece discreetly coiled, and Maria was in the kitchen, having been reinstated as my personal assistant for the evening to oversee the wine service. She wore a simple black dress, a small microphone taped to her sternum beneath it. Her face was a mask of professional calm, but her eyes, whenever they met mine, were flint. The plan was a high-wire act. Liam, out on bail and accompanied by Arthur Brigham, was holding court on the other side of the room. He looked gaunt, handsome in a ravaged way, playing the wronged husband to the hilt. He caught my eye across the crowd and gave a small, sorrowful shake of his head, as if to say, "Look what you've driven me to." I turned away, my smile never slipping. The first part of the evening was speeches. The board chair, a silver-haired eminence named Walter Pierce, gave a blandly inspiring talk about art changing lives. Then it was my turn. As I walked to the podium, the room's chatter died to a respectful hush. Hundreds of eyes fixed on me. I saw Isabella Vance near the front, looking stunning in crimson, a sympathetic smile plastered on her face. The viper in the garden. "Thank you, Walter," I began, my voice clear and amplified through the room. "And thank you all for being here tonight. Your support is the lifeblood of the Foundation, especially during turbulent times." I paused, letting the unspoken hang in the air. Tonight is about celebrating the transformative power of art. It's about the children in our programs who find their voices, their confidence, their futures, through a paintbrush, a violin, a script. It's not about the people in this room. It's about the potential we help unlock. Polite applause. I saw Liam shift, impatient. The script, as he knew, called for me to announce the live auction, and then, in a moment of personal generosity, to donate something truly special from my own collection to kick it off. That something was to have been the 1990 Romanée-Conti, the wine he'd poisoned, the wine Maria had stolen, the wine now sitting in an NYPD evidence locker. I gestured to a waiter, in that spirit, and to start our auction on a high note, I'd like to offer a toast. The waiter approached with a silver tray holding a single crystal wine glass filled with a deep, ruby liquid. A murmur went through the crowd. This wasn't on the agenda. Liam's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. Isabella leaned forward slightly. I took the glass, raising it to the future, to truth, and to the unexpected allies who help us find it. I took a deliberate, slow sip. The liquid was, in fact, a meticulously crafted blend of pomegranate juice and non-alcoholic wine, designed by Maria to mimic the appearance of an aged Cabernet. It tasted like tart candy, but I swallowed as if it were the finest vintage. I set the glass down. Now, for the auction. I didn't get to finish. I let my hand flutter to my temple. I blinked slowly, as if the lights were too bright. A slight stagger, caught on the edge of the podium. I saw Liam's face transform. The studied sorrow vanished, replaced by a fierce, triumphant intensity. Now that his eyes seemed to scream, "It's happening. Sera? Darling, are you quite all right?" Walter Pierce asked, his voice laced with concern. I'm fine," I said, but I slurred the word just slightly. I gripped the podium harder, just a little lightheaded. The excitement. I think Liam was moving. He cut through the crowd with sudden urgency. "Let me through. That's my wife." He mounted the steps to the dais, his face a masterpiece of spousal anxiety. He took my elbow, his grip firm. "Sera, honey, it's okay. I've got you." He spoke loudly enough for the front rows to hear. Then, lower, for my ear only, a vicious whisper. Right on cue. "Darling, time for your rest." He turned to address the room, his arm around me, supporting me as I leaned into him, feigning weakness. "Everyone, please, remain calm. My wife has been under an incredible strain. Her condition has been a private struggle." He infused the word condition with devastating weight. "I've tried to get her help. It's time she accepted it." "Dr. Evans?" From the side of the room, a man I recognized that a well-known, media-friendly addiction specialist Liam had consulted once for a board member's son, stepped forward, a medical bag in hand. The crowd was utterly silent, a mixture of horror and rapt fascination. "No, Liam, I'm fine," I protested weakly, pushing against his chest. "You're not fine. Sera," he said, his voice breaking with theatrical emotion. "You've been self-medicating for months. The pressure, it's too much. We're going to get you the help you need. Dr. Evans is going to give you something to calm you. And then we're going to a wonderful facility where you can recover." He nodded to the doctor, who produced a pre-filled syringe. That was my cue. The sight of the needle, so reminiscent of the video, shattered the last of my act. I stopped leaning. I straightened up, shrugging off his arm with a strength that surprised him. The dizziness, the slur, vanished from my voice. A condition. "Liam?" My voice, now cold and sharp as a scalpel, rang through the silent ballroom via the microphone. "A private struggle? Is that what you call the poison you injected into my Romanique, honey?" The gasp from the audience was a physical wave. Liam's face went blank with shock. "Sera, you're confused. You're not well." "Oh, I'm perfectly well," I said, stepping away from him, towards the center of the stage. I looked out at the sea of stunned faces. What you just witnessed was a performance, a necessary one, because my husband, Liam Kingsley, and his... I let my gaze find Isabella, whose crimson face was now draining of color. His partner, Isabella Vance, conspired to poison me tonight. Their plan was for me to drink that wine, collapse in front of all of you, and be diagnosed as a hopeless addict, so Liam could assume control of my foundation and my assets. "This is insane," Liam roared, recovering. He appealed to the crowd. "Can't you see? She's having a psychotic break. The stress of these false accusations." "The accusations aren't false, Liam," a new voice said, calm and clear. Maria had walked onto the stage. She held a wireless microphone. She looked small and out of place among the glitter, but her voice didn't waver. I saw you 3 nights before you left for Austin. In the wine cellar, you used a syringe. You put something into the 1990 Romanée-Conti and the 2005 Screaming Eagle Cabernet. Liam stared at her as if she were a ghost. You're the thief. You stole the wine. You're trying to frame me because she fired you. I took the wine to stop you from hurting her, Maria said, her voice gaining strength. And I left the camera so she would see the truth. What camera? Liam blustered, but a flicker of doubt, of dawning horror, crossed his face. The camera you had installed in the smoke detector. Mr. Kingsley, Maria said, the one you thought was pointed at the room, to record Mrs. Kingsley acting erratically. I adjusted it. It was pointed at the wine cabinet. It recorded you, poisoning the bottles. I took the microphone from her. The NYPD has that video. Liam, they also have the wine. The lab reports came back this afternoon. A powerful cocktail of sedatives and a dissociative agent, designed to induce a very public, very humiliating collapse. I turned back to the crowd. They also have financial records. Records showing Liam and Isabella have embezzled nearly $2 million from this very foundation, and they have a recorded phone call. I nodded to David, who stood by the AV booth. A moment later, Liam's voice, tinny but unmistakable, filled the grand ballroom. It was just a sedative, just to make her look unstable. Isabella said it was harmless, but you stole the wine. You ruined the plan. The recording played. His offer of $50,000. His instruction to frame Isabella. The room was in pandemonium. Camera phones were up. Journalists, who had been covering the society event, were now scrambling for a much bigger story. Liam's face was a grotesque mask of rage and terror. He lunged for me, not to attack, but to grab the microphone. She's lying. It's all edited. They're in on it together. At that moment, the ballroom's main doors opened. Detective Alvarez and Russo walked in, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. They made a beeline for the stage. Liam Kingsley, Alvarez's voice carried without a microphone. You're under arrest for the attempted assault of Serafina Kingsley, conspiracy to commit fraud, witness tampering, and solicitation to commit perjury. You have the right to remain silent, as Alvarez recited the Miranda rights. Liam's lawyer, Brigham, was at his side, hissing in his ear. But it was over. The performance was done. Liam was handcuffed, his head bowed, the picture of abject defeat. As they led him away, he locked eyes with me. The hatred in his gaze was pure and feral. Detective Russo then turned to Isabella Vance, who was trying to melt into the crowd. Isabella Vance, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and as an accessory to attempted assault. This is outrageous. I have no idea what's going on. She shrieked, her composure gone. We have the financial trails. Russo said calmly, we have Mr. Kingsley's statement implicating you. We'll discuss it downtown. The room was in an uproar. Flashbulbs popped. Walter Pierce was at my side, his hand on my shoulder. My God, Serafina, the board, we had no idea. I know. Walter, I said, my public mask softening into one of pained resilience. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. I'll provide the full dossier of evidence to the board tomorrow. My only concern was stopping them from harming the foundation any further. On the stage, Maria stood alone, looking overwhelmed. I walked over to her and took her hand, raising it slightly. The cameras followed. This is Maria Rodriguez, I said, my voice strong and clear. For 8 years, she wasn't just my house manager. She was family. And when my own husband tried to destroy me, she risked everything that her job, her safety, her own daughter's future. Tio, protect me. She is the reason I'm standing here, and the reason this foundation's future is secure. She is, and will remain, a treasured part of our organization. I put my arm around her thin shoulders. She looked up at me, tears glistening in her eyes. Not of fear, but of vindication. The crowd, after a moment of stunned silence, broke into applause. It was tentative at first, then swelling into a roaring, unanimous wave of support. It wasn't for me. Not entirely. It was for the story, the drama, the stunning reversal. The villain was in handcuffs. The victim was a heroine, and the humble servant was the moral compass. As the police led a sobbing Isabella away, and the event staff tried to restore some order, David materialized beside me. The press is going to eat this up. It's a perfect storm. We'll release the full video and financial summary to the DA in the morning. Liam won't make bail this time, and Isabella is going to flip on him to save herself. I looked out at the dissipating chaos. The gala was ruined, of course, but the foundation and my life were saved. The trap had been sprung, and the predators were caught. The war wasn't over, the legal battles would be long and ugly, but the first, decisive battle was won, on a very public field of my own choosing. I turned to Maria. You were magnificent. Usted también. Señora, she whispered. You too, ma'am. No, I said, squeezing her hand. Not señora. Not anymore. Serafina. And we're just getting started. The taste of the fake wine was still sharp on my tongue, but it was the sweet taste of victory that filled me as I watched the last of the blue lights from the police cars fade from the entrance. The morning after the gala, the world exploded, not with literal force, but with the digital, screeching cacophony of a media-feeding frenzy. MyFace.com, resolute, arm around a tearful Maria that was on the front page of the New York Post. Poisoned champagne. Society Queen's sting operation nabs hubby. The Daily News, toast of the town. Heiress turns tables on deadly husband. And, in a more restrained fashion, the New York Times philanthropist Serafina Kingsley alleges spousal conspiracy at charity gala. David's team had been ready. At 6 a.m., a meticulously curated dossier containing the video of Liam injecting the bottles, the forensic lab report confirming the drug cocktail, the audio recording of him bribing Maria, and a summary of the embezzlement evidence that was delivered simultaneously to the district attorney's office, the presiding judge, and a select group of financial and crime reporters. We controlled the narrative with surgical precision. I was the brave survivor. Liam and Isabella were greedy, monstrous sociopaths. Maria was the heroic immigrant whistleblower. The story was too lurid, too perfect, to be resisted. My phone, set to only allow calls from a dozen contacts, still buzzed incessantly with texts and emails. I ignored them, sipping coffee in the sunlit living room of my temporary Carlisle suite. Across from me, David Chin scrolled through a tablet, a slight smile playing on his lips. Brigham is screaming bloody murder. David said without looking up, claims the recording of Liam and Maria is entrapment, that Maria was acting as an agent of the state. He's filing a motion to suppress. It won't work. She was a private citizen, and your husband incriminated himself voluntarily. The judge won't touch it. He finally glanced at me. The DA is adding attempted murder to the sheet. The drug combination, in the volume he used, could have induced a coma or respiratory arrest, especially if you'd consumed a full glass. They're also hitting him with the full list of financials. Grand larceny, wire fraud, forgery. Isabella is singing like a canary in a desperate bid for a deal. She's implicating Liam in everything, painting herself as a love-struck pawn. Is she getting a deal? I asked, my voice flat. The DA isn't inclined. Her fingerprints are all over the money. She's just as guilty, but her testimony will nail Liam's coffin shut. He's not getting bail this time, not with a flight risk and an attempted murder charge. He put the tablet down. Now, we need to talk about you. The foundation board is in emergency session this afternoon. You need to address them in person. The The Kingsley Arts Education Foundation boardroom was a temple of quiet money and tasteful modern art. 10 faces, a mix of old guard philanthropists and sharp new money strategists, watched me as I took my seat at the head of the table. Walter Pierce, the chairman, cleared his throat. His expression was a blend of paternal concern and stark terror for the foundation's reputation. Serafina, he began, his voice gravelly. First, let me say, on behalf of the board, our profound relief for your safety. What you've endured is unimaginable. However, the public spectacle, the nature of the allegations, it puts the foundation in an extremely precarious position. Our donors are nervous. The media is camped outside our offices. I had expected this. Fear masquerading as concern. I folded my hands on the polished walnut. Walter, I understand the apprehension, which is why I've taken proactive steps. I nodded to David, who distributed bound folders. This is a full, independent audit of the Foundation's finances for the last 2 years, commissioned by me yesterday from Goldstein Rhine. It details every transaction Liam and Isabella manipulated. It also outlines the new, ironclad financial controls I'm implementing immediately. Dual signature requirements on all expenditures over $10,000, quarterly third-party audits, and a complete segregation of personal and foundation accounts. I've also repaid, from my personal funds, the full $1.98 million that was misappropriated. With interest, a murmur went around the table. Repaying the money was a masterstroke. IT instantly removed the scandal's financial taint and demonstrated unwavering commitment. Furthermore, I continued, I am voluntarily stepping aside as chair of the Gala Committee and the Finance Subcommittee, effective immediately, until the legal proceedings are resolved. I recommend Walter assume the chairmanship pro tempore. My focus will remain on our philanthropic mission, but I will do so from a less public-facing role to ensure the Foundation's reputation is protected. The board members exchanged glances. My moves were chess plays, sacrificing a pawn to protect the queen. They couldn't accuse me of putting myself before the Foundation. I was doing the opposite. That's very responsible. Serafina, said Eleanor Vance, no relation to Isabella, a sharp-eyed venture capitalist. But the stink of scandal lingers. How do we reassure our major donors that this was an isolated incident, that the Foundation itself isn't compromised? We show them the receipts. I said calmly, we are the victims of a crime, not the perpetrators. We have been transparent. We have taken corrective action, and we have made the victims whole. I've also drafted a statement, which I'd like to read to you. I pulled a single sheet of paper from my folder. It wasn't the emotional plea they expected. It was a declaration of war. The Kingsley Arts Education Foundation was founded on the principles of trust, empowerment, and integrity. Recently, that trust was brutally violated by individuals who placed personal greed above our sacred mission. While the legal process unfolds, we want to assure every donor, every volunteer, and every child we serve that their faith is not misplaced. We have emerged from this trial stronger, with renewed safeguards and a recommitment to transparency. To that end, we are establishing the Maria Rodriguez Integrity Initiative, a whistleblower fund and legal support program for employees across the nonprofit sector, named for the woman whose courage and loyalty exposed the truth and saved this foundation from irreparable harm. We will not be defined by the betrayal of a few, but by the courage of one and the resilience of the many. The silence was profound. Then, Eleanor Vance started to clap. Slowly, then others joined. It was strategic applause, but it was applause. I had reframed the scandal from a salacious personal drama into a story of institutional resilience and moral courage. And I had permanently enshrined Maria as a hero, making any move against her politically toxic. I move we accept Serafina's proposals and release the statement immediately. Eleanor said, The vote was unanimous. The legal proceedings that followed were a grim, methodical dismantling. Liam, denied bail, sat in a jumpsuit at the defense table, radiating a venomous hatred that filled the courtroom. Arthur Brigham fought like a cornered animal, but the evidence was a tsunami. The video was played for the jury. The forensic toxicologist explained how the drug cocktail could have caused catastrophic neurological and respiratory effects. A digital expert detailed the forged signatures. A forensic accountant laid out the money trail, a labyrinth that always ended with Liam or Isabella. The star witness for the prosecution was Maria. She took the stand in a simple navy suit, her back straight. Brigham tried to shred her on cross-examination. Ms. Rodriguez, you admit you stole property worth over $500,000? I removed evidence of a crime to prevent a murder. Yes. You lied to Mrs. Kingsley about it? I omitted the truth to protect my daughter from being deported by Mr. Kingsley. And you secretly recorded a private conversation, luring my client into incriminating himself. That sounds like entrapment. I was afraid. He had threatened my child. I was gathering proof of his crime to protect myself and Mrs. Kingsley. I did not force him to say those things. He chose to. Brigham shifted tactics. You have a new job at the foundation. Isn't that right? A new title? A significant raise? And Mrs. Kingsley is paying for an immigration lawyer for your daughter. So, you've been richly rewarded for your testimony, haven't you? Maria looked at him, then at the jury, her eyes clear. My reward is that my daughter can sleep at night without fear. My reward is that a good woman is alive. Mr. Kingsley offered me $50,000 to lie. Mrs. Kingsley offered me the chance to tell the truth. That is the difference. The jury believed her. Isabella, in a plea deal that spared her the attempted murder charge, but guaranteed a long sentence for fraud and conspiracy, took the stand. She was a pale, brittle version of the woman in crimson. She painted Liam as the mastermind, the seductive puppeteer who promised her a life of luxury. He said she was cold, obsessed with her work. He said she wouldn't give him a divorce, that she'd ruin him financially. The poisoning, that was his idea. He said it would just make her sick, discredit her. I never wanted anyone to die. It was a pathetic performance, but it corroborated every detail. When it was my turn to testify, David prepped me relentlessly. They will try to paint you as cold, controlling, driven, that a woman so focused on her foundation, she drove her poor husband to desperation. Don't take the bait. Be calm. Be factual. Show emotion only when discussing the betrayal itself. Brigham did his best. Mrs. Kingsley, isn't it true your marriage had been strained for years? That you prioritized the foundation over your husband? The foundation was our shared passion. I answered coolly. At least, I believed it was. You are a wealthy woman, independently. Did you ever make your husband feel financially insignificant, emasculated, even? Objection. The prosecutor boomed. Sustained. Brigham tried another tack. The video shows Mr. Kingsley injecting the bottles, but you have no proof he intended to kill you. Do you? Couldn't it have been, as Ms. Vance testified, merely an attempt to discredit you? I looked directly at the jury. He injected a lethal combination of drugs into wine he knew I would drink. He took out a $15 million life insurance policy on me, naming his mistress the beneficiary. He then plotted to have me declared mentally incompetent to control my assets. The intent seems clear enough to me. In his closing arguments, Liam's lawyer painted a picture of a perfect storm of circumstantial evidence and a wife who orchestrated a dramatic public humiliation. The prosecutor was simpler, holding up the syringe from the evidence table. This, he said quietly, is not a marital dispute. This is premeditated murder, disguised as a glass of wine. The jury was out for less than 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder in the second degree. Conspiracy. Grand larceny. Forgery. Wire fraud. The sentencing hearing was a formality. I chose to make a victim impact statement. I didn't speak of my pain or my fear. I spoke of the violation of trust, not just as a wife, but as a partner in a shared mission. I spoke of the donors whose generosity was stolen and the children whose programs were almost defunded. I ended by looking not at Liam, but at the judge. The greatest poison wasn't in the bottle. It was in the betrayal. I asked the court to remove that poison from our society for as long as the law allows. Liam was given the maximum, 25 years to life. He would be eligible for parole in 25, a man in his 70s. As the bailiffs led him away, he finally looked at me. The hatred was gone, replaced by a hollow, stunned emptiness, the architect of a grand design, seeing the walls of his own prison slammed shut. Isabella received 12 years, a surprisingly harsh sentence that sent a message. After the verdict, on the courthouse steps, a swarm of reporters surrounded me. I held up a hand. I have one brief statement. The cameras clicked. This was never about revenge. It was about accountability. The Kingsley Foundation has been made whole, and we are moving forward, guided by the principles that were almost stolen from us: integrity, courage, and truth. There will be no further comment. I turned and walked away, David and Maria flanking me. A reporter shouted after me, "Mrs. Kingsley, do you have anything to say to Liam?" I didn't break stride. I had nothing left to say to him. He was a ghost. The man I'd married had died long before the trial, if he had ever existed at all. The victory wasn't sweet. It was unnecessary. Brutal surgery. The tumor was cut out. Now, the long, quiet work of healing could begin. As the car door closed, shutting out the noise, Maria placed a hand over mine. "It's over," she said softly. "No," I said, looking out at the city moving past. "It's just beginning. 6 months." It felt like a lifetime and the blink of an eye. The legal machinery had ground to its final, irrevocable conclusion. Liam's appeals were filed, a procedural Hail Mary that would take years and go nowhere. Isabella was in a federal correctional facility in Connecticut, already, according to prison gossip, trying to start a memoir and a yoga circle. The public, with its fickle appetite, had moved on to fresher scandals. I was no longer front-page news. I was a footnote, a cautionary tale that had, improbably, a happy ending. I intended to keep it that way. The brownstone on East 71st Street was mine again, legally and spiritually. The first thing I did was have every lock, code, and security system overhauled. Then, I faced the cellar. I hadn't been down there since the night I discovered the theft. Maria offered to go with me. The climate-controlled hum was the same. The racks of wine, my beautiful, carefully curated collection, stood like silent witnesses. My eyes went to the now empty spot in the locked case. The DRC and the Screaming Eagle were gone forever, held as evidence, their fate to be decided by some clerk in the property room. I didn't want them back. They were relics of a haunted past. "It feels like a tomb," I said, my voice echoing slightly. "It was a sanctuary," Maria corrected gently, standing beside me. "It can be again, different, but again." I shook my head. "No, not for me, not anymore." An idea, which had been a vague notion, crystallized into a plan. A sanctuary, yes, but not for bottles, for people. I called an architect the next day. The transformation took 4 months. The temperature and humidity controls were repurposed. The wine racks were carefully dismantled. The rich mahogany was sanded and refinished into display shelves and a reception desk. The stone walls were cleaned and subtly lit. The locked case that had held the poison bottles was preserved. But behind its glass now sat not wine, but 2 objects: a high-resolution photo of the original lab report from the NYPD, and a simple, elegant placard I had commissioned. It read, "Remember, the most toxic betrayals are often served in the vessels of greatest trust, and the truest guardians are sometimes found in the most unexpected places." Beneath it, in smaller script, in gratitude to Maria Rodriguez. It was no longer a wine cellar. It was the Kingsley Foundation's Vintage Visions Gallery, a dedicated exhibition space for the young artists from our outreach programs. The inaugural show featured teenagers from the South Bronx. They're vibrant, chaotic, hopeful paintings covering the walls where once rows of Latour and Lafayette had slept. The night of the opening was soft and celebratory. No black tie, no stuffy formality. The artists, in their best clothes, beamed beside their work, explaining brushstrokes and inspiration to small clusters of patrons. Maria's daughter, Elena, now officially a conditional permanent resident with a clear path to citizenship, was helping as a guest liaison, her face alight with a security I hadn't seen before. Maria herself moved through the crowd, not as staff, but as the Foundation's newly appointed Director of Community Operations, a title and a salary that reflected her invaluable, unshakable loyalty. I stood to the side, watching a lanky 17-year-old named Jamal passionately describe his mixed media piece about the sound of his neighborhood to Walter Pierce. A sense of quiet, profound rightness settled over me. This was the legacy, not the liquid in a bottle, but the spark in a child's eye. Later, upstairs in the now sparsely furnished living room, I'd sold or donated most of Liam's preferred decor. Maria found me looking at a box. It was marked Liam's study, personal. "You kept some of it?" she asked, surprised. "Not by choice. The lawyers said it was all evidence until now. It's just paperwork. Junk." I opened the box. Inside were leather-bound notebooks, empty, monogrammed cufflinks, a few first edition books on corporate rating, and a set of keys to God knew what. At the bottom, tucked in a velvet pouch, was something that made me freeze. A bottle, a 1982 Chateau Petrus, one of the most legendary, valuable wines in the world. Liam had bought it at auction 2 years ago, a trophy for some deal he'd closed. He'd been saving it for a momentous occasion. I'd forgotten about it. I pulled it out, the glass cool and heavy in my hand. One he missed. I murmured, "Should I open it?" Maria asked, only half joking. We could pour it down the sink. A ritual. I almost said yes. But then I thought of the lab report in the case downstairs, of the near ruin, of the life insurance policy. This bottle was worth over $15,000, maybe more. Liquid blood money. "No," I said, an idea forming. "We're not going to waste it. We're going to use it." I looked at Maria. "Get me David Chen's number, and the number for the director of the Upper East Side Women's Shelter." 3 weeks later, the Liberation auction was held at a sleek gallery in Chelsea. The press release was clear. Serafina Kingsley to auction former marital assets, with 100% of proceeds benefiting survivors of intimate partner violence. David had navigated the legal intricacies of selling property that was still partially under Liam's name, using the forfeiture clauses from the conviction. The lots included the Petrus, the rest of Liam's private wine stash, vetted safe by experts, his vintage watch collection, his absurdly expensive fly fishing gear, and the sports car he'd barely driven. The room was packed, not with society gossips, but with serious collectors, philanthropists, and a respectful press corps. I stood at the back, wanting to observe, not be the spectacle. The Petrus was the final lot. Bidding started at $10,000 and climbed quickly. $18,000 from the gentleman online, $22,000 from the room, $25,000. I felt a presence beside me, not Maria, who was near the front, a man, tall, with a slight stoop, dressed in a worn but good tweed jacket over a dark shirt. He had kind, observant eyes and hair that was more salt than pepper. Powerful gesture. He said quietly, his eyes on the auctioneer, turning the instruments of betrayal into tools for healing. I glanced at him. He wasn't hitting on me. His tone was that of a colleague making an observation. It seemed the only fitting end for them. I replied. They'd lost all pleasure for me. Maybe they can do some good. 32,000. Do I hear 35? The auctioneer called. I covered the trial. The man said, still not looking at me, Evan McCall, The Atlantic. I remembered the name. His long-form piece had been one of the few that focused less on the sensational poison and more on the systemic financial fraud and the vulnerabilities in nonprofit governance. It was incisive, fair, and brutal to Liam. Your article was the only one that got the embezzlement scheme right, I said. He finally turned, a faint smile on his lips. Most reporters see sex and poison. I see spreadsheets and vanity. Less exciting, but usually more truthful. Sold for $45,000 to bidder number 7. The room erupted in applause. The Petrus was gone. In total, the auction raised just over $380,000, a line of credit against my death, transformed into a lifeline for women and children fleeing theirs. As the crowd began to disperse, Evan McCall handed me a simple business card. When you're ready, he said, I'd be interested in talking, not about the trial, about what comes after, about the Maria Rodriguez Integrity Initiative, how a person rebuilds a system, and themselves, from the ground up. No pressure. The offer stands. He nodded politely and melted into the crowd before I could formulate a response. I looked at the card. No title, just his name, a number, and an email. It was the first interaction with a man in nearly a year that hadn't been layered with pity, opportunism, or professional necessity. It was just an offer, based on respect for my mind, not my notoriety or my fortune. Later that night, back at the townhouse, Maria and I sat in the new gallery with a simple meal. The art on the walls seemed to glow in the low light. I told her about meeting Evan McCall. A reporter? She said, instantly wary. A good one. The one who wrote the serious piece. He wants to talk about the initiative, about rebuilding. Maria studied me. He is handsome. I laughed. A real, unforced sound. That's not the point. The point is he saw the spreadsheets. Maria, not just the syringe. She smiled, a knowing, gentle smile. That is a good place to start. She reached beside her chair and brought out a bottle, wrapped in simple brown paper. I have something for you. For tonight. It wasn't a grand bottle. It was a straightforward, honest Coates du Rhone, the kind that cost $20. A wine for drinking, not for worshipping. The label was faded. Attached to the neck with twine was a small card. For the first wine we share with no ghosts at the table. The best vintage is the one shared in peace. Maria, I felt a lump in my throat. It's perfect. I fetched 2 simple glasses from the new kitchenette we'd installed. I opened it at a soft pop, not the ceremonious thwacaf, a trophy cork. I poured. The wine was deep red, uncomplicated, fragrant with berries and earth. We clinked glasses. To new vintages, I said. To truth, she replied. And to freedom. Salud. We drank. It was delicious, not complex, not legendary, but robust, authentic, and deeply satisfying. It tasted like the present, like safety, like a friendship forged in fire. As we sat in the quiet, surrounded by the vibrant art of a hopeful future, I knew the past was finally, truly, bottled up and put away, not forgotten, but neutralized. Its poison had been extracted, and its remains, like the Petrus, had been converted into something that could heal. The cellar was a gallery, the jailer was in a cell, the servant was a director, and the victim was just a woman, sitting with a friend, drinking a good glass of wine, wondering, for the first time in a long time, what might happen next. 1 year, a line in the sand, a full orbit around the sun since the gala, since the handcuffs, since the world fractured and reassembled itself into a new, sturdier shape. The Kingsley Arts Education Foundation wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. The Maria Rodriguez Integrity Initiative had become a quietly powerful force in the nonprofit world, offering grants and legal support to whistleblowers. It had already exposed 2 cases of grant misallocation at smaller arts organizations. Our story had become a case study in resilient governance, which is why, on a crisp Tuesday morning, I found myself in a hotel ballroom in Washington, D.C., not as a defendant or a victim, but as an honoree. The National Council of Nonprofits annual Pillar Awards were a staid, dignified affair. As I waited backstage, Walter Pierce fussed with his tie beside me. Nervous? He asked, oddly. No, I said, smoothing the skirt of my tailored cream suit. After testifying in a criminal trial, accepting an award feels straightforward. He chuckled. You've earned this. Sera, the reforms, the transparency, the new programs, and the damn $2 million you personally repaid. The board has never been more confident. The host announced the award for excellence in organizational integrity, ethical leadership. I walked onto the stage to sustained, warm applause. The spotlight was familiar, but the temperature was different. It was respect, not scrutiny. At the podium, I looked out. Thank you. This award isn't for me. It's for every employee and volunteer who believes that doing good requires doing right. It's for the board that chose reform over retreat. And it is, profoundly, for a woman named Maria Rodriguez, who taught me that integrity isn't a policy in a handbook. It's a choice you make in the dark, when the cost is high and no one is watching. She is the true pillar. After the luncheon, as I was collecting my things, a familiar voice spoke behind me, still giving her the credit. I see. I turned. Evan McCall leaned against a pillar, a half-smile on his face. He looked more at ease here than he had at the auction. It's hers to take, I said. I didn't expect to see you here. I thought you covered courts and corruption, not rubber chicken award ceremonies. My editor thought a follow-up piece had merit. From courtroom to cornerstone, the rebuilding of a philanthropy. Less sexy than the trial, but maybe more important. He fell into step beside me as I walked towards the lobby. Got time for a coffee? Off the record. I'm between sessions. We found a quiet corner in the hotel's atrium cafe. The conversation was easy, drifting from the challenges of nonprofit oversight to the state of long-form journalism. He asked insightful questions about the Integrity Initiative structure. Then, over a second coffee, about a biography of Rachel Carson I'd mentioned in a recent Foundation newsletter interview. You read it? I asked, surprised. I did. After I read your interview, you said her meticulousness was a form of courage. I liked that. He stirred his coffee. The book deal is official. I hear. Uncorked truth. News traveled fast. It is. The advance is going entirely to the new vocational training fund for immigrant women. I'm not doing it for the money. I know. He said simply. I read the proposal your agent shopped around. It's not a lurid tell-all. It's a forensic examination of financial abuse and institutional recovery. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. The Atlanticist's interested in serializing a condensed version. My editor wants me to edit the adaptation. I studied him. This was the offer. Clear and professional. That's a serious commitment. Why? Because the story of how a rich woman got poisoned by her husband is a Lifetime movie. The story of how that woman systematically rebuilt her life and her organization, and is using the blueprint to help others avoid the same traps. That's a manual. That's change. And frankly, it's the story I'm more interested in telling now. He met my gaze, his expression open. But it's your story. So, I'm asking, would you be comfortable working with me on it? There was no pressure, just a clear, professional proposition, and a personal one, unspoken but hovering in the space between us. I took a sip of water, buying a second. I would, I said, on one condition. Maria has final approval on any sections involving her or her daughter. Her privacy isn't negotiable. A genuine smile, the first full one I'd seen from him, spread across his face. Of course, that's non-negotiable for me. 2. He pulled out his phone. I'm heading back to New York on the 4 p.m. Acela. What's your schedule? The book work began the following week. Evan came to the foundation offices, a dedicated, quiet presence in the conference room we dubbed the Writer's Nook. Our sessions were intensely focused. He pushed me to articulate not just the Liam schemes, but the gradual erosion of oversight, the small compromises that paved the way for large crimes. Here, he'd say, pointing to a passage I drafted about the first forged signature, you call it a violation, but at the time, you told the board it was a clerical error. Walk me through that moment, the cost-benefit analysis of rocking the boat versus the gut feeling that something was off. It was grueling, cathartic, and deeply professional. We argued over word choice. He challenged my narratives. I defended my perspective. Through it, a mutual respect, solid and unflashy, was built sentence by sentence. One evening, after a particularly long session wrestling with the chapter on the Galatrap, we ordered dinner in. The sun had set, painting the skyline orange and purple. The professional armor of the day had softened. He never understood you, did he? Evan said quietly, not looking up from his notes. Liam. He saw the foundation as an asset to be controlled, a thing. He never saw it as an extension of you, your engine. The insight was so sharp it stole my breath. No, I finally said. He thought it was a hobby for rich women, something to be managed, like a stock portfolio or a wine cellar. And Maria? Evan asked. He saw her as a tool, or an obstacle, a piece of the scenery. I corrected. The old anger a dull echo, part of the household machinery, invisible until she malfunctioned by having conscience. Evan finally looked at me. And now, how do you see all of this? He gestured vaguely, encompassing the room, the city beyond, the life I'd built. I thought about it. I see it as mine, not in a possessive way, in a responsible way, like I'm the steward of it. It's a trust, one I almost lost. I hesitated, then asked the question that had been hovering for weeks. And you? The journalist who sees the spreadsheets. What do you see? He leaned back, considering me. I see a remarkable recovery, a story worth telling. And he paused, choosing his words with the same care he edited mine. I see a person I'd like to get to know. When the book is done, if that's of interest. It was the first time he'd acknowledged the personal current that had been flowing beneath our work. He'd put a boundary around it, that when the book is done, that ensuring the professional integrity of the project came first. The respect in that gesture meant more than any grand declaration. It is, I said, matching his quiet tone. Of interest. The night of the book launch for Uncorked Truth was held in the Vintage Visions Gallery. It was a different crowd from the old Gala. Publishing people, journalists, literacy advocates, and dozens of women from the vocational training programs the book was funding. There was a buzz, but it was a buzz of ideas, not gossip. I gave a short speech, thanking my team, my editor, and the readers. This book isn't a memoir of victimhood. I said, it's a field report from the front lines of betrayal and a reconstruction manual. If it gives one person the tools to spot the poison before it's poured, or the courage to speak up, then its purpose is served. Afterwards, as people mingled, Maria found me, holding a simple, slightly dusty bottle. It was the same humble Coates du Rhône we'd shared a year ago. Tied to it was a new note, for the second vintage. To prove the first was no accident. The best wines, like the best people, don't need a fancy label. Just heart, your friend, Maria. I hugged her tightly. You're giving me your anniversary bottle. It's not an anniversary, she said, her eyes shining. It's a tradition now. She looked past my shoulder to where Evan was talking to Walter Pierce. He is a good man. He listens. He does. I agreed. Later, As the crowd thinned, Evan joined me by the preserved evidence case. He looked at the placard, then at me. It's done. The serialization starts next month. The response is going to be big. Are you ready for the next story? I asked. I'm more interested in the unwritten one, he said. Then, as if catching himself being too vague, he clarified the Foundation's next 5-year plan, the data on the vocational program's first graduates. That's the sequel I want to cover. He was offering a future of professional connection, a door left invitingly open. At that moment, Elena Rodriguez, beaming with pride, walked over with a young man, a recent graduate of the culinary program the Foundation had funded. Mrs. Kingsley, Evan, this is Mateo. He's the pastry chef at Café Belud now. As we offered congratulations, the room filled with a warm, uncomplicated joy. I looked around at the art, at Maria's proud face, at Elena's future unfolding, at Evan's quiet, steady presence. The past was a closed book, literally. The present was a work of thoughtful, deliberate creation. Evan leaned closer, his voice for me alone. You once said you were a steward. Of all this, does the stewardship allow for dinner? Next week? No notes, no tape recorder. I met his gaze, seeing the careful journalist and the curious man, both waiting for an answer. The fear was a distant memory. The caution, however, was a well-earned tool. Stewardship, I said, a smile touching my lips, requires good judgment, and dinner sounds like an excellent use of it. It wasn't a beginning. It was a thoughtful, mutual decision to explore a possibility, and for the first time in a very long time, a possibility was all I needed it to be. It was enough. The dust, as they say, had settled, but it wasn't the dead, muffling dust of neglect. It was the clean, sharp particulate that hangs in the air after a necessary demolition, ready for the new foundation to be laid. Liam's final appeal had been denied. The sentence stood, 25 to life. The news came in a terse email from the DA's office. I read it once, then deleted it. He was a ghost in the machine of the state now, and I had no more energy for ghosts. My life had assumed a new, purposeful rhythm. Mornings were for the Foundation, afternoons for the Maria Rodriguez Integrity Initiative, which was fielding inquiries from nonprofits across the country. Evenings were often spent with a manuscript for my next project, a practical guide on financial safeguards for small foundations, co-authored with a forensic accountant, and some evenings, increasingly, were spent with Evan. Our relationship had evolved with a slowness that felt medicinal. There was no rush. We were both adults with histories, with scars, with professional selves that demanded respect. Our first official no notes, no tape recorder dinner had been at a tiny, brilliant Ukrainian restaurant in the East Village. The conversation was easy, skipping from the resurgence of vinyl records to the geopolitics of rare earth metals. He didn't ask about Liam. I didn't ask about his divorce. We talked about the now. One evening, about 6 months after the book launch, we were at his apartment, a book-lined loft in Brooklyn. He was cooking pasta. I was ostensibly chopping herbs, but mostly watching the methodical, calm way he moved in his kitchen. A Miles Davis record played softly. The board is pushing for a gala next spring, I said, slicing into a bundle of time, a celebration of resilience. I'm resisting. It feels self-congratulatory, or it's a signal, Evan said, tasting the sauce. A declaration that the organization isn't just back. It's thriving, a fundraiser for the next phase. It depends on the framing. He glanced at me. You're the master of framing. Sarah, you know that. It's exhausting sometimes. The constant curation of the narrative. He turned the heat down, giving me his full attention. Then don't curate that one. Curate a different one. Make it about the artists, the kids, the whistleblowers the initiative has helped. Make it about them. You just provide the room and the canapes. It was simple, brilliant advice, the kind a partner would give. The word floated in my mind. unfamiliar and not entirely uncomfortable. I changed the subject. Maria's daughter, Elena, she got her acceptance letter to Cornell. Pre-law, a real, wide smile broke across his face. That's fantastic. You must be thrilled for them. Where? Maria is. I haven't seen her that light since before Carlos died. I paused. She's using part of her salary to start a college fund for the children of other housekeepers in her building. She calls it the Ripple Fund. Evan shook his head in admiration. She's a remarkable woman. She is. I looked at him, the steam from the pot curling between us. Evan, why are you here? With me. The story is done. The serialization is over. You got your award-winning piece. He didn't flinch. He leaned back against the counter, wiping his hands on a towel. I'm here because I like who you are, not the story, not the survivor, not the philanthropist, the woman who argues with me about Miles Davis versus Coltrane, the woman who gets secretly excited about spreadsheets, the woman who, when she trusts, does it with her eyes wide open. He met my gaze. I know you're careful. You should be. I'm careful too. So, we're careful together. It's not a bad way to be. It was the most honest thing anyone had said to me in years. There was no grand passion, no desperate need. It was a choice, clearly stated. Careful together. I repeated, testing the words. They felt strong. I can work with that. The celebration of resilience gala was, in the end, not a celebration of me. It was an exhibition. The Vintage Visions Gallery and the main floors of the townhouse were turned over to the work of the foundation's beneficiaries. Teenage photographers from Harlem had their portraits on display. A string quartet from our music program played. The food was prepared by graduates of the culinary training program, including a beaming Mateo, Elena's boyfriend. The speeches were given not by board members, but by a shy young painter, a grateful mother from a shelter the auction had funded, and a nonprofit accountant from Ohio whom the Integrity Initiative had helped protect after she exposed fraud. I moved through the crowd. A host, not the honoree. I saw Walter Pierce deep in conversation with the young painter. I saw Maria, resplendent in a deep blue dress, surrounded by friends from her building, her face animated, and I saw Evan, talking to Mike Vargas, my now-retained private investigator, who was regaling him with a sanitized war story. Near the end of the night, I found myself back in the gallery, now quiet. The art seemed to breathe in the dimmed light. Maria joined me, holding 2 glasses of sparkling water. A success, mi amiga, she said, handing me one. It was, wasn't it? I said, clinking her glass. Because of you. All of this. No, she said firmly. Because of you. Because you chose to listen. Because you chose to fight. Because you chose to build this. She gestured at the vibrant canvases. I only handed you the tool. You did the rebuilding. We stood in comfortable silence. Then she said, Evan is a good man. He looks at you, not at the things around you. I know. I said softly. It's new. This feeling of being seen, not assessed. It is a good feeling. You deserve it. She squeezed my arm. Do not let the past steal the present. Sera, it has taken enough. Later, as the last guests drifted out, Evan found me by the old, preserved evidence case. He looked at the placard, then at the 2 blank spaces on the wall where the DRC and Screaming Eagle had once been. They destroyed the bottles. You know, I said quietly, the evidence. After the appeals were exhausted, they incinerated them. I got a notification from the court. Good, he said, ashes to ashes. He turned to me. I have to go to London for a month. A series on white-collar extradition treaties. Boring but important. A month is a long time, I said, and was surprised to find I meant it. It is, and it's not. He took a step closer. When I get back, I'd like to keep being careful with you, maybe a little less carefully. I felt a smile tug at my lips. Is that your professional opinion? Mr. McCall? It's my personal one. Ms. Kingsley. He reached out, his hand hesitating for a second before gently brushing a stray strand of hair from my cheek. The touch was simple, electric in its sincerity. I'm not him. I don't want what was yours. I'm interested in what's yours, and what's mine, and what we might choose to make together. Slowly, with our eyes open, the ghost of Liam, the phantom of poison and betrayal, which sometimes still whispered in the quietest moments, fell silent. In its place was this, a clear-eyed man offering a clear-eyed future. Not a rescue, a partnership. I'd like that, I said, and it was the truest sentence I'd spoken all night. He left not long after, with a promise to call from Heathrow. I locked up the house, the silence now warm and welcoming. In the gallery, one of the motion sensor lights flickered on, illuminating a stunning, chaotic painting of a cityscape, all bold gold and defiant red. It was called New Dawn. Same city. I thought of Maria's Ripple Fund, of Elena at Cornell, of the women in the shelter, of the careful, intelligent man flying to London, of the work yet to do. The past was a closed book, its most toxic chapters physically incinerated. The present was this quiet, well-lit space of my own creation, and the future was not a thing to be feared or controlled, but a series of choices, made deliberately, with good people at my side. I turned off the light, leaving the art to sleep in the dark. The house was no longer a fortress or a crime scene or a trophy. It was simply a home, and I was no longer a victim, a target, or a survivor. I was, finally, just Serafina, and that was more than enough.